Well, you ask a very interesting question, and you pose it in an interesting way. You say that prejudice is illogical and therefore un-Vulcan, but Spock himself experienced prejudice, you see. Spock grew up being half Vulcan, half human. And the history of the Spock character is very specifically and strongly built on the fact that Spock had very specific prejudicial experiences of his own. He was not perceived to be pure Vulcan by his Vulcan kid friends. So he was a kind of a half-caste. And of course, he was never accepted as human because he obviously doesn't look human. He looks Vulcan. So he can't pass as human, you see. So he understands what prejudice is all about, or at least I think he does. And yes, it's illogical, but Spock chose to function as a Vulcan because he believed in the Vulcan traditions and the Vulcan culture as being a way for him. And as illogical as it may seem, and as emotional it may seem, he took a certain kind of pride in pursuing that Vulcan tradition. It caused him problems over the course of his experiences in the Federation, particularly because the Federation is predominantly human, and Spock is one of a minority amongst humans. So he understood what that felt like, and in this particular case, I think it makes sense in this movie for Spock to be an emissary of the idea that prejudice be done away with. But he discovers during the course of the story that not only are his friends around him prejudiced in a certain kind of way, but so is he in an interesting way that he learns about in the course of this movie. I think we're all touched by this issue in this film in a very interesting and entertaining kind of way, I think. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure that's... I think it is in the classic tradition of Star Trek. I'm not sure it's a return to the classic tradition of Star Trek. That seems to suggest that we've been away. And I'm having been strongly involved in the making of a couple of the previous Star Trek films, I have strong feelings that we were in the classic tradition of Star Trek. I thought Star Trek II, that was directed by Nicholas Meyer, was very much a Star Trek film. I thought 3, being The Search for Spock, was certainly an internal Star Trek story. And 4, for me, was everything that I hoped it would be. It was a fun adventure, using the characters in a fun and interesting kind of way, plenty of humor, which we had done without for some time and recaptured, I think, in Star Trek IV, and very much about a contemporary condition on Earth. So I thought that was very much in the Star Trek traditions. I don't think we've really been away. Yes, I think this film is very much in the tradition of Star Trek, but not necessarily a return to. I think we've been there recently. You're talking to a Star Trek person who's gone through the end of Star Trek several times. I know what it feels like. I've been there before. I have seen Star Trek finish for me several times before. And yes, they're saying this is the final Star Trek movie. I personally, I can't bring myself to be involved in this concept anymore. I think the intention is sincere. I think the company is saying, it's time now to hand off the baton to Star Trek: The Next Generation. And in fact, we have Michael Dorn in this film playing one of his own ancestors, so that we are beginning the hookup between Star Trek us and Star Trek them. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I was one of the ones who advocated that and suggested that we should do that. We should begin to link these two projects together, like two gigantic entities in space coming together to gradually touch and become a synthesized idea. Anyway, In 1967, at the end of the second season of Star Trek on NBC, we were canceled. And we were revived by a big letter-writing campaign. So we went into a third season. At the end of the third season, we were canceled, and we all thought that's the end of Star Trek. In 1978, they started calling us about coming together to make a Star Trek motion picture, a motion picture. And we did that. And I thought, well, then that's the end of Star Trek. And then in 72, they asked me to come to do one more film and to die as Spock. And we did. Spock died. And it was not a game we were playing. We were very sincere about it. So I said goodbye to Star Trek again. I've said goodbye several times. And I'll say goodbye again, and then we'll see if the phone rings. That's okay. I've learned to be comfortable with whatever comes of this. We've had an incredible ride, 25 years, 3 years of primetime television, and now 6 motion pictures, and spawned The Next Generation. I think we've had an incredible ride with this idea, with this project, and whichever way it goes, I'm ready for it.